The rain tapped steadily against the window of my study, a small room at the back of the house where time seemed to stand still. The shelves sagged under the weight of dusty books, yellowed letters, and trinkets from a life I'd left behind decades ago. A single lamp cast a warm glow over the oak desk, illuminating a photograph in a chipped wooden frame, a young woman with sharp eyes and a smile that could break hearts. That was Margaret, my wife, gone now for 20 years. I sat there, as I often did, lost in the echo of her laughter, when the door creaked open. "Dad, you're doing it again," Sarah said, her voice sharp but not unkind. My daughter stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. At 35, she had her mother's eyes, but none of her softness. Sarah was all edges efficient, modern, always moving forward. "You're living in the past." "This," she gestured at the cluttered room, her nose wrinkling. "This isn't healthy." I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under my weight. "It's not the past, Sarah. It's history. There's a difference." She sighed, stepping inside, her sneakers silent on the worn rug. "History doesn't pay the bills. Dad, you're sitting on a fortune in this house. Sell it. Move somewhere smaller. Somewhere new. You could travel, see the world. Why stay here, surrounded by ghosts?" Her words stung, though I knew she meant well. Sarah didn't understand. To her, this old house in the suburbs of Boston was just a relic, a crumbling monument to a life she couldn't remember. She didn't know about the safe hidden behind the bookshelf, or the secrets it held, secrets worth $20 million, give or take. Secrets I'd buried so deep, even I sometimes doubted they were real. "I'm fine here," I said, my voice quieter than I intended. "This house suits me." Sarah shook her head, her frustration palpable. "You're impossible, Dad. You're 75, not 100. You could have a life. Instead, you're, what? Playing Indiana Jones with old junk." I chuckled, though it felt hollow. "Maybe I am." She didn't laugh. Instead, she sat across from me, her eyes searching mine. "Mom wouldn't have wanted this. She'd have wanted you to move on." The mention of Margaret hit like a punch. I looked at the photograph, her frozen smile a reminder of everything I'd lost and everything I'd hidden. "Your mother," I said slowly, "knew why I stayed." Sarah's brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I hesitated. For years, I'd kept the truth locked away, not out of distrust, but out of fear that Sarah wouldn't understand, that she'd see me differently. But her words tonight, sharp as they were, stirred something in me. Maybe it was time. Maybe she deserved to know. "Sarah," I began, my voice steady despite the weight in my chest. "There's something I need to tell you. About this house. About your mother. About me." Her eyes narrowed, skeptical but curious. "What are you talking about?" I stood, my knees protesting, and moved to the bookshelf. My fingers found the hidden catch, a small lever disguised as a knot in the wood. With a soft click, the shelf swung forward, revealing a steel safe embedded in the wall. Sarah's breath caught. "Dad, what is that?" I didn't answer. Instead, I turned the dial. The combination etched into my memory, December 7th, 68. The day I met Margaret. The safe opened with a groan, revealing a stack of documents, a small velvet box, and a leather-bound journal. I pulled out the journal, its pages brittle with age, and handed it to her. "Read this," I said, "but don't judge me until you're done." Sarah took the journal, her hands trembling slightly. She opened it, her eyes scanning the first page, where my handwriting younger, bolder began the story of a man she'd never truly known. A man who, 50 years ago, had been someone else entirely. The journal began with 1968, the year I was 25 and the world was on fire. Vietnam was raging. Protests filled the streets. And I was a nobody, a scrappy kid from South Boston with big dreams and empty pockets. I worked as a courier, running packages across the city for anyone who'd pay. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. Or so I thought. One night, I got a call from a man named Vincent Moretti. He was a name whispered in back rooms, a shadow who controlled half the city's underworld. He offered me a job, deliver a package. No questions asked. For $5. 000. That was a fortune back then. Enough to change my life. I said yes without hesitating. The package was small, wrapped in brown paper, and heavier than it looked. I delivered it to a warehouse by the docks, handed it to a man with cold eyes, and walked away with an envelope of cash. Easy money, I thought. I was wrong. 2 days later, I met Margaret at a diner. She was a waitress, her smile brighter than the neon sign outside. We talked for hours, and by the end of the night, I knew I'd marry her. But I also knew I couldn't build a life on courier wages. So I took another job for Moretti. Then another. Each one paid more, and each one pulled me deeper into a world I didn't understand. By 1970, I wasn't just a courier. I was a fixer, a man who made problems disappear. I never carried a gun, never spilled blood, but I moved things: money, jewels, documents that others killed for. Margaret didn't know. I told her I worked in logistics, and she believed me because she wanted to. We got married in '72, bought this house, and started dreaming of a family. But the deeper I went, the harder it was to get out. One night, Moretti called me to a meeting. He was calm, too calm, and handed me a velvet box. Inside was a diamond the size of a walnut, flawless and cold. "This is your ticket out," he said. "Hide it. Keep it safe. When the time comes, it's yours." I didn't ask questions. I took the diamond, hid it in the safe I'd built into this house, and swore I'd never touch it. But Moretti's world didn't let go so easily. Sarah looked up from the journal, her face pale. "Dad, is this true?" I nodded. "Keep reading." She turned the page, and I watched her dive back into the story of a man who'd walked a tightrope between love and danger, never knowing if he'd fall. Sarah's fingers trembled as she turned the pages of the journal, her eyes darting across my words. The rain outside had softened to a drizzle, but the air in the study felt heavier, charged with the weight of secrets unfolding. I sat back, watching her, my heart pounding as if I were reliving those years myself. The journal continued with 1973. Sarah was born that spring, a tiny bundle with her mother's eyes and a cry that could pierce your soul. Margaret was overjoyed, but I saw the strain in her smile. Money was tight, despite the cash I brought home. She'd started asking questions: why I worked late, why I never talked about my day. I brushed her off, told her it was just business, but the lies gnawed at me. Moretti's jobs grew riskier. By then, I was handling bigger packages, briefcases stuffed with cash, crates of smuggled goods, even artworks stolen from private collections. I justified it to myself. I wasn't hurting anyone. I was providing for my family. But every job left a mark, a stain I couldn't wash off. One night, I came home to find Margaret waiting up, her face pale. "Who are you, Thomas?" she asked, her voice shaking. She'd found a roll of $100 bills in my coat pocket. $10. 000. More than we'd ever had at once. I tried to explain, but the words stuck in my throat. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not of me, but of the life I was building. I'm doing this for us, I said, desperate. For you and Sarah? She shook her head. I don't want this. Not if it's dirty. That night, I promised her I'd get out. I went to Moretti the next day, told him I was done. He laughed, a cold sound that chilled my blood. You don't walk away, Tommy, he said. But I'll make you a deal. One last job, and you're free. No strings. The job was simple: move a shipment of diamonds across state lines. Not just any diamonds, these were from a heist that had made headlines. Stones so rare they were worth millions. I didn't know the details. Didn't want to. I just wanted out. So I did it. I drove a nondescript van to a warehouse in New York, handed over the crate, and walked away. Moretti kept his word. He let me go. But I kept the diamond he'd given me years before. The one in the velvet box. It was my insurance. My secret. I never told Margaret. I couldn't. She'd have made me give it back. And I wasn't sure I could trust Moretti not to come after us if I did. So I locked it in the safe, along with the journal where I wrote everything, every job, every deal, every lie. I swore I'd never touch it again. For a while, life was good. I got a job at a hardware store. Honest work that paid just enough. Sarah grew up, bright and curious, unaware of the shadows in her father's past. Margaret and I rebuilt our trust, though I knew she never fully forgot. We were happy, or as close to it as we could get. Then, in 2005, Margaret got sick. Cancer, the doctors said. She fought for 2 years, but it wasn't enough. When she died, a part of me went with her. I stopped working, retreated into this house, into the past. Sarah went to college, built her own life, and I let her go, thinking it was better that way. But the safe, and the diamond inside, stayed with me, a reminder of who I'd been, and what I'd done to protect my family. Sarah closed the journal, her eyes wide. Dad, you were a criminal. I winced at the word, though it wasn't wrong. I was a man trying to survive. I said, I made choices, bad ones. Maybe, but I did it for you and your mother. She shook her head, disbelief etched into her face. And the diamond? It's still here. I nodded, pointing to the safe. It's worth millions now. Maybe 20. Maybe more. I never checked. I didn't want to know. Sarah stood, pacing the small room. Why didn't you tell me? All these years, we struggled, Mom's medical bills, my student loans, and you had this fortune sitting here. It's not that simple, I said, my voice breaking. That diamond came with blood. Not mine, but someone's. I couldn't touch it. Not after everything. She stopped, her eyes blazing. So what? You just sit here, pretending it doesn't exist. Pretending you're not whoever this journal says you are. I'm still your father, I said, softer now. That's who I am. Sarah looked at the journal, then at the safe, her expression torn between anger and something else, pity. Maybe. Or understanding. I need to think, she said finally, and left the room, the journal still in her hands. I sat alone, the rain picking up again, and wondered if I'd just lost her for good. The house felt emptier after Sarah left the study. I heard her footsteps fade down the hall, then the soft click of her bedroom door. The journal was gone with her, carrying the weight of my past into her hands. I stared at the open safe, the velvet box glinting faintly in the lamplight. For the first time in years, I wondered if I'd made a mistake keeping it all these years or if the mistake was telling her at all. The next morning, Sarah was quiet at breakfast. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, the journal resting beside her plate like an unspoken accusation. I waited for her to speak, but she didn't. Instead, she stared out the window, where the rain had given way to a gray, heavy sky. Finally, I broke the silence. "Did you finish it?" She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "I read enough." "Enough to hate me?" I asked, half joking, half dreading her answer. She looked at me then, her gaze steady but unreadable. "I don't hate you, Dad. I don't know who you are anymore." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to explain, to make her see the man who'd loved her and her mother more than anything. But how do you explain a life built on lies, even if those lies were meant to protect? "I'm still me," I said. "The man who tucked you in at night, who taught you to ride a bike. That's not a lie." She set her coffee down, her fingers tightening around the mug. "But it's not the whole truth, either. You were, what? A mobster, a thief. And now there's a diamond worth millions just sitting in there. And you act like it's nothing." "It's not nothing," I said, sharper than I meant. "It's a curse. Every time I thought about selling it, I saw your mother's face, telling me it was dirty. I saw the men I worked for, the kind who'd kill to get it back. I kept it because I had to, Sarah, not because I wanted to." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "So what now? You just keep it locked away forever. What's the point?" I didn't have an answer. For years, I told myself I was protecting her, protecting Margaret's memory. But maybe Sarah was right. Maybe I was just living in the past, too scared to move forward. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I want you to decide. It's yours now, too." Her eyes widened. "Me? Dad, I don't want anything to do with it." "Maybe not," I said. "But you deserve a say. Read the rest of the journal. Then we'll talk." She hesitated, then nodded, picking up the journal and disappearing upstairs. I sat alone, the silence pressing in, and wondered what she'd find in those pages and what it would mean for us. The journal picked up in 1980. Sarah was 7, a whirlwind of energy who loved stories and puzzles. Margaret had gone back to work part-time, teaching at a local school, and I was still at the hardware store, trying to be the man she deserved. But the past wasn't done with me. One night, a man came to the house. He was young, maybe 30, with a scar across his cheek and eyes that didn't blink enough. He said his name was Paulie, and he worked for someone who'd taken over Moretti's operations after Moretti went to prison. He knew about the diamond. Not just any diamond, the one I'd hidden. "They want it back, Tommy," he said, his voice low, like we were old friends. "You've had it long enough." I kept my face blank, my heart racing. "I don't know what you're talking about." Paulie smiled, a predator's smile. "Don't play dumb. We know it's here. Hand it over, and we're square. No one gets hurt." I thought of Sarah, asleep upstairs. Margaret, in the kitchen, unaware. "I don't have it," I said, my voice steady. "You're wasting your time." He leaned closer, his breath sour. "You're making a mistake, Tommy. We'll be back." After he left, I checked the safe, my hands shaking. The diamond was still there, cold and unyielding. I knew then I couldn't stay in that life, not even on the edges. I moved the safe to a new hiding spot, reinforced the locks on the house, and never spoke of it to Margaret. But I lived in fear, always watching for Polly or someone like him. Years passed, and no one came. Moretti died in prison. His empire crumbled. And I thought maybe, just maybe, I was free. But I never sold the diamond. It was a reminder of what I'd done, and what I'd promised Margaret'd be better. Sarah came downstairs that evening, the journal in her hands. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "You were scared," she said quietly. "All those years. You were scared they'd come for us." I nodded. "Every day?" She sat across from me, the journal open to a page I hadn't read in years. "You wrote about Mom. How she made you want to be a better man. Did she know about the diamond?" "Not everything," I said. "She knew I'd done things I wasn't proud of. But I never told her about the diamond. I couldn't." Sarah looked down, her fingers tracing the edge of the journal. "I wish you'd told me sooner. I wish I'd known who you were." "I'm still here," I said, reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away, and for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. Sarah didn't speak much over the next few days. She'd take the journal to her room, reading in silence, and I'd catch her watching me sometimes, her expression a mix of curiosity and unease. The house, once a refuge, felt like a pressure cooker, each creak of the floorboards amplifying the tension between us. I wanted to give her space, but the weight of my confession hung heavy, and I feared I'd broken something that couldn't be fixed. One evening, as I sat in the study, Sarah appeared in the doorway, the journal tucked under her arm. "I finished it," she said, her voice steady but soft. "All of it." I nodded, unsure what to say. "And?" She stepped inside, sitting on the edge of the desk. "It's a lot, Dad. I mean, you were this whole other person. You did things I can't even imagine. But you also stopped. You walked away. That's what I keep coming back to." I looked at her, searching for judgment, but found none. "I had to," I said. "For you. For your mother." She nodded, her eyes distant. "I get that now. But the diamond, why keep it? Why not destroy it? Or give it away?" I leaned back, the question one I'd asked myself 1,000 times. "Because it was proof," I said. "Proof I could leave that life behind. Proof I could protect you both without it. And maybe I thought one day it could do some good." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Good? How?" I gestured to the safe. "It's worth millions. Sarah. Not for me, I am too old for that. But for you. For the world you want to build. You're always talking about making a difference. About your nonprofit work. That diamond could fund schools, hospitals, anything you want." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You're saying you want me to take it?" "I'm saying it's your choice," I replied. "I've carried it long enough." She stood, pacing the room, her hands restless. "Dad, I don't know if I can. It's tainted. You said it yourself, there's blood on it." "I know," I said, my voice heavy. "But sometimes good can come from bad. Your mother believed that. It's why she stayed with me." Sarah stopped, her back to me, and for a moment, I thought she'd walk away. But then she turned, her eyes fierce. "If I do this, if we do this, it has to be clean. No secrets. No lies. We find out where it came from, who it belongs to. We do it right." I smiled, a weight lifting from my chest. That's my girl. The journal had ended in 1990, when Sarah was 17. I'd written about her high school graduation, how proud Margaret and I were, how we'd stood in the crowd, clapping until our hands hurt. But I'd also written about the fear that never left meth, fear that someone, somewhere, still wanted that diamond. By then, I'd started researching it myself. The diamond wasn't just valuable. It was infamous. Stolen from a private collection in Europe during a heist in the 60s. It had passed through hands like Moretti's before landing with me. I'd found articles, grainy photos, even a police report that mentioned it. The trail had gone cold, but I knew it was only a matter of time before someone came looking again. I'd taken precautions. The safe was state-of-the-art. The house fortified in ways Sarah never noticed: cameras, alarms, a second exit in the basement. I wasn't paranoid, just careful. But as the years passed, and no one came, I let myself believe the danger was gone. Now, with Sarah standing before me, I realized the danger wasn't just in the past. It was in what we did next. The next morning, Sarah came to me with a plan. I looked up some stuff online, she said, her laptop open on the kitchen table. There are ways to trace stolen goods. Even after all this time, we could hire a private investigator or contact a lawyer. If the diamond's stolen, we could return it, maybe get a reward, or at least clear your name. I raised an eyebrow. You've been busy. She shrugged, a hint of her old spark returning. I'm not letting this ruin us. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I felt a surge of pride. Sarah wasn't just my daughter. She was a force, determined to make sense of the mess I'd left her. Okay, I said, but we need to be careful. People don't let go of something worth $20 million without a fight. She nodded, her jaw set. Then we'll be ready. We spent the day making calls, reaching out to contacts Sarah had from her nonprofit work, lawyers, investigators, even a gemologist who could appraise the diamond. By evening, we had a lead, a private investigator named Carla Ruiz, who specialized in recovering stolen art and jewels. She agreed to meet us the next day. As night fell, Sarah sat with me in the study, the safe open between us. She reached for the velvet box, hesitating before opening it. The diamond caught the light, a prism of fire and ice. It's beautiful, she whispered, almost to herself. It is, I said, but it's heavy. She looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. We'll make it right, Dad. Together. For the first time in years, I believed her. Carla Ruiz arrived the next morning, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat in the study, her notepad open, as Sarah and I laid out the story carefully, leaving out the more incriminating details. I showed her the diamond, and her expression didn't change, but I saw her fingers tighten around her pen. This is serious, she said, her voice low. A stone like this doesn't just disappear for 50 years without someone looking for it. You're sure no one's come asking? Not since the 80s, I said, glancing at Sarah. But I've always been careful. Carla nodded, jotting something down. I'll need to run some checks: provenance, ownership records, any open cases. If this is what I think it is, it's tied to a major heist from 1967. The Von Adler collection. Interpol's been chasing leads on those stones for decades. Sarah leaned forward, her voice urgent. Can we return it? Legally. I mean, without trouble. Carla's eyes flicked to me, then back to Sarah. Maybe. If we can prove it was stolen and you're not involved in the theft, you could claim a finder's fee. But it won't be easy. People don't let go of $20 million without a fight. I felt a chill, the same one I'd felt when Polly came to the house all those years ago. What kind of people? I asked. Carla closed her notepad, her expression grim. The kind who don't knock. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house creaked around me, every sound a potential threat. Sarah had gone to bed, the journal on her nightstand. But I stayed in the study, the safe locked and the diamond hidden once more. I thought of Margaret, how she'd have handled this calm, resolute, always believing in redemption. I wanted to believe in it too, but doubt gnawed at me. The next day, Carla called with news. She'd found a lead, a collector in New York, a man named Victor Grayson, who'd been linked to the Von Adler heist. He was old now, in his 80s, but still active in the black market. He's dangerous, Carla warned. If he knows you have the diamond, he'll come for it. Sarah's face paled, but her voice was steady. What do we do? We set a trap, Carla said. We let him know the diamond surfaced, but we control the terms. I have contacts at the FBI. We can work with them. Make this clean. I shook my head. No cops. Not yet. I've seen what happens when you trust the wrong people. Carla studied me, her gaze piercing. You've got history, don't you? More than I'd like, I admitted. Sarah touched my arm, her eyes fierce. Dad, we're not running from this. We're going to end it. I looked at her, seeing Margaret's strength, and nodded. All right. But we do it our way. Carla's plan was simple but risky. She'd leak word to Grayson's network that the diamond had resurfaced, but not where or with who. She'd arrange a meeting, posing as a seller, and use her contacts to ensure the FBI was ready to move in if things went south. Sarah and I would stay out of sight, the diamond locked away until we knew it was safe. For a week, we waited. Sarah threw herself into research, digging into the Von Adler heist, piecing together the diamond's history. I watched her, amazed at her determination, but also terrified. She was walking into my past, a place I'd tried to shield her from her whole life. One night, as we sat in the kitchen, she looked at me, her expression softer than it had been in days. I'm not mad at you, Dad, she said. I was, at first, but I get it now. You did what you thought you had to. I swallowed, my throat tight. I never wanted you to know this part of me. She smiled, a small, sad smile. I'm glad I do. It makes you real. Before I could respond, the phone rang. It was Carla. Grayson took the bait. She said, he wants to meet. Tomorrow night. In New York. You ready? I looked at Sarah, her eyes steady, and felt a surge of pride and fear. We're ready, I said. The drive to New York was quiet, the diamond in a locked case in the trunk. Sarah sat beside me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I wanted to tell her to stay behind, to keep her safe, but I knew she wouldn't listen. This was her fight now, too. We met Carla at a diner outside the city, a place not unlike the one where I'd met Margaret. She briefed us. Grayson would be at a warehouse in Brooklyn, expecting a seller. The FBI was on standby, but we had to play it carefully. If Grayson suspected a trap, he'd vanish and he wouldn't be alone. As we drove to the warehouse, I felt the weight of the past pressing down. This was a moment I dreaded for 50 years. But with Sarah beside me, I felt something new, hope. The warehouse loomed ahead, a hulking shadow against the Brooklyn skyline. Its rusted walls and broken windows reminded me of the docks where I'd made my first delivery for Moretti all those years ago. The air was thick with the smell of oil and salt, and my heart pounded as we parked a block away, hidden in the shadows. Carla was already inside, wired with a hidden mic, posing as the seller. Sarah and I waited in the car, the diamond case between us, its weight a silent reminder of what was at stake. Sarah's hand brushed mine, her fingers cold. You okay, Dad? I forced a smile, just remembering. She nodded, her eyes fixed on the warehouse. We're doing the right thing, aren't we? I wanted to say yes, to reassure her, but the truth was I didn't know. I'd spent my life running from this moment, and now here we were, facing it head-on. I hope so, I said finally. Carla's voice crackled through the earpiece she'd given us. He's here. Grayson. 2 men with him. Armed. Stay sharp. Sarah tensed, her breath catching. I squeezed her hand, grounding us both. We trust Carla, I said. She knows what she's doing. Inside, Carla played her part flawlessly. We listened as she negotiated with Grayson, her voice calm but firm, spinning a story about a collector who'd found the diamond. Grayson's voice was gravelly, laced with suspicion, but he took the bait, agreeing to inspect the stone. That was our cue. Sarah and I slipped out of the car, moving silently to the warehouse's side entrance. Carla had given us a key, and we entered a dark, musty corridor, the diamond case heavy in my hands. My knees ached. My heart raced, but I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. This wasn't just about the diamond Anna Marie, it was about proving to Sarah, and to myself, that I could face my past. We reached a small office overlooking the main floor, where Carla stood with Grayson and his men. He was older than I'd expected, frail but sharp, his eyes glinting with greed as Carla opened a decoy case with a fake stone. This is it, he asked, leaning closer. Carla nodded. The Von Adler diamond. Untouched since '67. Grayson's laugh was dry, like paper crumpling. You think I'm a fool? I know who had this stone. Tommy Sullivan. Where is he? My blood ran cold. Sarah grabbed my arm, her eyes wide. Dad, she whispered. He knows. Carla didn't flinch. Tommy's long gone, she said. This came from his estate. You want it or not. Grayson's men shifted, hands on their guns. I knew we were out of time. I handed Sarah the case. Stay here, I whispered, and before she could protest, I stepped into the light. Grayson, I called, my voice echoing in the cavernous space. Every head turned. You're looking for me. Carla's eyes flicked to me. A warning, but it was too late. Grayson's face split into a grin. Tommy Sullivan. Still alive. You old bastard. Sarah stepped out behind me, the case in her hands. We're giving it back, she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The diamond's yours. Legally. No blood. Grayson's grin faded. You think it's that easy? That stone's mine by right. I paid for it in '67, and Moretti screwed me over. You don't get to walk away. Before I could respond, Carla signaled, and the warehouse doors burst open. FBI agents swarmed in, shouting orders, guns drawn. Grayson's men froze, but Grayson himself lunged for the case in Sarah's hands. I moved without thinking, shoving her behind me, my body between her and danger. The next moments were a blur: shouts, gunfire, the case hitting the floor. When the dust settled, Grayson was in cuffs, his men subdued. Carla rushed to us, her face pale. You okay? Sarah nodded, clutching the case. I felt a sharp pain in my side, and when I looked down, my shirt was wet with blood. Dad, Sarah cried, her voice breaking. It's nothing, I said, though my legs wobbled. Just a scratch. The hospital room was quiet, the beeping of machines a steady rhythm. The bullet had grazed me, Nothing serious. But Sarah hadn't left my side. She sat by the bed, the diamond case on the floor, her eyes red from crying. "You scared me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry," I said, reaching for her hand. I couldn't let him hurt you." She squeezed my hand, her grip fierce. "You're an idiot, Dad. But I'm glad you're my idiot." I laughed, wincing at the pain. "What about the diamond?" "Carla's handling it," she said. "The FBI has it now. They're tracing its origins. But it looks like we'll get a reward. Legally. Enough to do something good." I nodded, relief washing over me. "Your mother would have liked that." Sarah smiled, tears in her eyes. "Yeah, she would." The hospital discharged me after 2 days. The graze on my side stitched and bandaged. Sarah drove me home. The diamond case gone, now in the hands of the FBI. The house felt different, lighter. Somehow, as if a weight had lifted. But the silence between us was heavy, filled with questions neither of us knew how to ask. Over the next week, Carla kept us updated. The diamond was confirmed as part of the Von Adler collection, stolen in 1967 from a Swiss vault. The original owners were long gone, but their heirs were thrilled to have it back. The FBI offered a finder's fee $2 million, more than I'd ever imagined keeping. Sarah insisted we donate half to her nonprofit, which built schools in underserved communities. The rest, she said, was for me. I don't need it. I protested, sitting in the study where it all began. I've got this house. My pension. I'm fine. Sarah rolled her eyes, a spark of her old self. "Dad, you're not fine. You're stubborn. Take the money. Fix the roof. Maybe take a vacation. Live a little." I chuckled. The sound easier now. "Maybe you're right." She sat across from me, the journal open on the desk. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what you wrote. About Mom. You loved her so much, but you carried all this guilt. I don't want that for you anymore." Her words hit hard, stirring memories of Margarethier laugh, her strength, the way she'd forgive me even when I didn't deserve it. "I don't know how to let it go," I admitted. Sarah reached for my hand. "You start by living. Not in the past, not in this study, but now, with me." I looked at her. My daughter, so much like her mother, yet fiercely her own person. "I'll try," I said. "For you." The next month was a blur of paperwork and meetings. The finder's fee came through, and Sarah set up a trust for the donation, naming it after Margaret. We met with contractors to fix the house new roof, new windows, a fresh coat of paint. It felt like waking up, like the house was breathing again. One afternoon, Sarah found me in the study, sorting through old photos. She held up a letter, yellowed but unopened. "This was in the safe," she said. "It's from Mom." My heart stopped. I took the letter, my hands trembling. The handwriting was Margaret's, elegant and sure. I opened it, and her words spilled out, written a year before she died. "Thomas, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably sitting in that dusty study, missing me. Stop it. You gave me a life I never dreamed of. Sarah, this home. I know about the diamond. I always did. I know why you kept it, and I forgive you. But don't let it define you. You're more than your mistakes. Live for Sarah. Live for you. I love you. Always." "Margaret," I cried then, for the first time since her funeral. Sarah wrapped her arms around me, and we sat there, the letter between us, A bridge to the past that didn't hurt anymore. With the house fixed, Sarah convinced me to travel. We went to Italy, a place Margaret had always wanted to see. We walked cobblestone streets, ate gelato, laughed like we hadn't in years. I felt lighter, younger, like the man I'd been before Moretti, before the diamond. Back home, Sarah started spending more time at the house. She'd bring her laptop, work on her nonprofit from the study. The shelves now organized, the air less heavy. One day, she looked at me, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "You know, Dad, you could write a book. Your story's pretty wild." I laughed, shaking my head. "Who'd believe it?" "Doesn't matter," she said. "It's yours, and it's worth telling." I thought about it, the idea taking root. Maybe she was right. Maybe my past wasn't just a burden, it was a story. One that could teach, inspire, maybe even heal. A year later, the house was transformed. The roof no longer leaked. The walls glowed with fresh paint. And the study was no longer a shrine to the past, but a place of new beginnings. Sarah had moved in, claiming the spare room as her office. Her nonprofit thriving with the donation in Margaret's name. I'd started writing, tentative at first, but the words came easier with time. The journal, once a confession, became the foundation for a memorous story of mistakes, redemption, and love. One spring morning, Sarah and I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood wake up. Kids rode bikes, dogs barked, and the world felt alive. "You know," Sarah said, "I used to think you were stuck. But you're not. You're kind of amazing, Dad." I laughed, embarrassed but warmed by her words. "I'm just an old man with a story." She shook her head. "You're more than that. You faced your past. Dad, you didn't run. That's not nothing." I looked at her. My daughter. My reason for everything. "I had help," I said. "You made me face it." She smiled. The same smile Margaret had. And for a moment, I felt whole. The diamond was gone. Its curse lifted. But what it had bought: truth. Connection. A second chance was worth more than $20 million. The memoir took shape over months. Each chapter a piece of my life I hadn't dared revisit. Sarah helped. Editing. Asking questions. Pushing me to be honest. When it was done, we sent it to a publisher, not expecting much. To our surprise, they loved it. They saw it as a story of redemption, of a man who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. The book came out the following year, titled Living in the Past. It wasn't a bestseller, but it didn't need to be. It was read by people who saw themselves in it, people who'd made mistakes, carried secrets, and found a way to keep going. Sarah and I did a few readings, small events at local bookstores, and I found myself enjoying it, sharing my story with strangers who nodded, smiled, sometimes cried. One evening, after a reading, a woman approached me, her eyes kind. "Your story saved me," she said. "I thought my past defined me, but you showed me it doesn't have to." I didn't know what to say, so I just thanked her. But as she walked away, I felt Margaret's presence, her voice whispering that I'd done something good. Now, as I sit in the study, the shelves lined with new books alongside the old, I think about Sarah's words that night, when she said I was living in the past. She was right, but not in the way she thought. The past wasn't a trop, it was a foundation, a story that shaped me, shaped us. And now, with the diamond gone, the house alive, and my daughter by my side, I'm not living in the past anymore. I'm living for the future. Sarah walks in, a laptop under her arm, a smile on her face. ready to write the next chapter. Dad. I smile back, picking up my pen. Always.